All right, we are recording. I'm going to wait until 10:01 before we officially get started to see if anybody else shows up. If you're watching the video, so not William's here live, but if you're watching the video and you're going to claim the extra credit, you're going to need to send me an email telling me that you watched the video, and I'm going to give you a series of attendance words. And in that email, you need to, give me all those attendance words, and that's how you'll claim your extra credit. The last attendance word or phrase really is going to be to ask me a question about the material that I presented today. So keep that in mind as I'm talking. That you're going to need to ask me a question. Now, William, since you're here live, you just need to, when we're done, just send me an email and remind me that you met with me, and you'll just automatically get the extra credit. And while we're talking, I'm going to pull up our course. And once I have it pulled up, I'm going to share my screen. It is 10:01 right now, so we will get started. Let's see here. Entire screen. Here we go. So the first word for attendance is going to be state. As you can see right there, the word state. And my intention is to get through this quickly. Time is valuable. Obviously, William, you're stuck with me, but if you're watching the video on YouTube, you can obviously speed the video up. But let's jump into it. First thing I want to talk about is the syllabus. Most of them are the same. I'm not going to read the whole syllabus. I'm just going to highlight some important stuff that might be a little bit different or that I just really want to make sure you understand. For example, sorry, I didn't officially introduce myself. I'm Vasilios Dianellos. I know that's a weird name. If we're ever meeting in person, you call me Mr. D, Professor Dianellos, I don't care, whatever, as long as it makes sense and I know to listen for it. This is my office phone number, 304-766-3125. It is forwarded to my cell phone. So whenever you need me, feel free to call that number. It could be 2 a.m. I don't care. If you need me, call me. When I go to sleep, I turn my ringer off. So again, it could be 3 a.m. If I happen to be awake, which I probably wouldn't, but if I happen to be awake and you call, I'm going to answer it. This is my email address. You guys have all received emails from me before, so you have that. My office is 131 Hamlin Hall. That's the first floor. It's closer towards the road than the library, if that makes any sense. I'm not in there that often. I work a lot from home. I'm online a lot, like I am right now. So even if I'm even if I'm at home, I'm online as I am, and that's really the best way to reach me is to use this same link and drop in and see if I'm online. I highly recommend it. I'm here to help you. Speaking of which, my official office hours are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday that's old. Wow, I need to fix that. From 9 to 10 is my official office hours for Monday and Wednesday. And then on Friday, it's 9 to 12. But again, I try to stay online when I'm working. So, you can meet me anytime you want. But this is when you're guaranteed to find me in my office and online. You can read the course description. The biggest thing I want to say about this, and I think I've mentioned this in one of the announcements, I just want to let you know my goal is not to get you to think, oh, we need to protect the environment. You think what you want. My goal is to give you facts and teach you how to find your own facts so you can form your own opinions. I want you to think for yourself. I'm not here to tell you how to think. I'm just here to give you the tools how to look things up yourself, basically. So anyway, you can read that, read the outcomes. The textbook, this is the second edition. It's old, but most of the information is still valid. It's just some of the data is a little bit old. The reason I do that is because you can get it dirt cheap. So if you don't have the textbook yet, you really need to get it. It's a 100 level course. I teach out of the textbook and grade out of the textbook. So make sure you get that. William, do you have any questions so far? Looks like you're on mute. I see that you're talking, but I can't hear you.
No, I just need to write down the name of this book real quick, and I'll be good.
Okay. Yeah. And speaking of which, just to remind you, the syllabus that we're looking at right now, you can find it on WVSU online, and in the course, it's towards the top. So while you're writing that down, I'll just keep moving forward. This is the grading. The whole course, there's 1,000 points. So basically every 100 points is a letter grade. You get 200 of which are from the weekly discussions, right? So that's 2 letter grades worth of weekly discussions. In my opinion, and I'm going to come back to this a little bit later, weekly discussions in my course, I think, are very important. Sometimes they're just like, oh, you have to have them in an online course. For me, it's very important. This is how I'm really assessing your knowledge of the textbook and your ability to critical think. So this is why they're worth so much, because again, it's really important. And I'm going to come back to the weekly discussions a little bit later. Quizzes, there you have one every week. So that means there's 8 of them. They're 20 points apiece. So that's worth, 160 points. So almost 2 letter grades. I'll go ahead and say this now. This way I won't have to talk about the quizzes again. When you take the quizzes, they're not timed. They're open book, and you can take them as many times as you want. So there's no reason not to get 100%. Just keep going until you get 100%. Also, after a quiz has closed, if for some reason you didn't get 100% and want to know the correct answers, to help you study for the exam, meet me online, and I will give you all the correct answers, and I will give you a 5% boost to your grade for meeting me online. Same thing with the weekly discussions. If you didn't get full credit and want to know why, meet me online. I will give you detailed feedback, and to bribe you into doing that, I will give you a 5% boost to your grade. And again, I'll come back to the weekly discussions a little bit later. Tests, you're going to have one every 2 weeks. They're based, again, they're multiple choice. There's about 50 questions, about 50 minutes to take them. They are closed book. You're not supposed to use any resources, the internet or your book. So you have 50 minutes to take them. That should not be enough time to look up every question. That's the reasoning for that. That being said, if you need more time to take an exam, meet me online. If I can see you, like William right now, I can see him. If I can see you and you share your screen like I'm doing, so I can see your screen and I can hear you, so I know you're taking a closed book exam, I don't care how long it takes you to take an exam, right? So if you want me to proctor your exam to extend the time limit, let me know. I'd be happy to do that. The final exam, it's going to be comprehensive. So yeah, let me back up. Each of the regular 3 exams is going to be based on the 2 modules before it, right? So your first exam will be based on module 1 and module 2. Exam 2 will be based on module 3, module 4, so on and so forth. The final exam will be based on, you'll have 50 questions based on the last 2 modules, so module 7 and module 8, and then you'll have 50 questions based on the first 3 exams. So your first 3 exams serve as your study guide for the final. And to that point, like I said about these other things, after an exam has closed, if you want to meet me online, I can give you all the correct answers. We can talk about your incorrect answers. I can explain what's wrong with them, give you all the correct answers. So you'll have, you can study them for the final. And also, again, a 5% boost to your grade if you allow me to give you feedback. The labs, you have one every week. They're worth 25 points a piece. So that comes out to 200 points. So 2 letter grades. So that's the grading. What else to say? Really quickly about the labs. These aren't tests, so you don't have to go at them alone. I mean, this is an online class, and generally that's how it goes, but it doesn't have to be. Again, you can meet me online. I can walk you through the labs. Actually, anything other than the quizzes and the tests, I can walk you through it. You don't have to go through any of this alone. So, and I mean, you're gonna hear me repeat this a lot throughout the semester, but you can meet me online to help you do an assignment. You can meet me online before you, and I really suggest doing this, meet me online for like 5 minutes before you submit an assignment. And let me just briefly look it over, not even like detailed feedback unless you ask for it, but I can just look it over and be like, whoa, you're missing something big. You're going to receive 0 credit if you don't fix this thing, right? Let me help you. And then the final thing, as I've already said 1.5 million times, after you've submitted an assignment and I've graded it, you can meet me online to get detailed feedback and a 5% boost to that grade. So any questions about grading? Nope. All right. Again, like I already said, it's the whole course is worth 1,000 points. Therefore, each 100 points per letter. 100 points is the letter grade. You can read all this. I'm not going to waste your time doing this. I mean, you should read it, but I'm not going to waste your time talking about it. So this rubric, I'm forced or required, I guess you could say, to include this rubric. You can read it if you want. I don't really follow it, to be honest with you. And once we start talking about the module 1 discussion, you'll see what I mean. So for now, I'll just let you know it's there, but you don't have to read that. I'm kind of forced to have that in there. What else? I already talked about the exams, quizzes, due dates. All right, this is important. And I'm not sure if I'm going to put this in writing or not, because I've told people they're responsible for watching this video. The official policy is late work will not be accepted. That's official. That's what's in the syllabus. I'm telling you unofficially, if you miss a due date, just turn it in. I don't prioritize late work. Like I'm going to prioritize new stuff. But if you turn something in, I guarantee you I will try to grade it. So the sooner you get it turned in, the better. To use an example, if you turn in 10 missing assignments on the last weekend of the class, I can almost guarantee you I won't have time to grade that, right? So the sooner the better. I might deduct some points, or I'm not sure. But anyway, again, the official policy is late work will not be accepted. I'm unofficially telling you, go ahead and turn it in. And not just late work, but this also goes for corrections. So let's say you do module 1 lab, and then it's module 2 has come around, and you're like, man, I wish I had a better grade on that lab. Go ahead and make the corrections, fix your lab, and resubmit it. And it's the same thing, like I'm saying with due dates. Unofficially, that's not accepted. Excuse me. Officially, that's not accepted. Unofficially, I'm telling you, go ahead and turn in late work, turn in corrections, and I will do my best to grade them. Any questions about that? All right. Again, lab, you can read all that stuff. I'm not going to waste your time doing this. Again, late work, it's there a few times. Again, officially, it's not accepted. Student expectations, you can read. All right, this is a big one, and I'm going to really hammer on this later here in a second when we actually talk about the module 1 discussion. Plagiarism is very bad. Do not copy. Don't copy and reword stuff. That's also copying. Don't use AI. Just don't do it, right? Yeah, that's all I'll say. I'm very strict about that because there's no reason for cheating. I give you so many opportunities to fix grades and extra credit and things like that. There's no need to cheat in my class. So if I catch it, it's going to be very bad. Yeah, proctor testing. This is all required. Blah blah blah. Here's the course schedule. You can see what we're looking at for the 8 weeks that we're here, and that's it for the syllabus. You need to read it. I think I'm going to post a quiz later for extra credit. So if you read the syllabus, you can take the quiz to see how much you understood, and then again, you'll also get extra credit for taking that quiz. So, any questions about the syllabus before we jump into module 1? Nope. All right. And again, you'll have to excuse me. I'm going fast because, like I said previously, time is valuable. I don't want to waste anybody's time. So let's jump into it. Here we go. The module 1 discussion. Actually, first of all, let me point this out. You have to acknowledge that you've read this before you can even do a discussion. And this is what I'm going to harp on the most because this is the biggest mistake I have seen from the students. And one of the more important things. Students, when writing your discussion posts, that whether it's the initial post or your replies, you must properly use sources before they can be graded. So you can click this link and read what I mean by properly using sources, right? It gives examples. I'm not going to waste your time reading it right now, but make sure you read that. You have to properly use sources. This means for every single post, you need at least one non-textbook source. So you have to have one source. One of the reasons for this is because this helps prevent cheating or using AI. If you include a fact, any fact, you need to include a source. So be careful. If you just don't feel like looking something up, which I don't recommend, but whatever, it's a 100 level class. If you don't feel like looking up something, don't write it down as a fact, right? So one of the students, and I applaud them for getting a head start, wrote something about climate change and how coal, contributes to climate change, which is a true statement, but they didn't include a source to back that up. So I suggested that what they should have done if they didn't want to look up a source is say something like, I'm under the impression that burning coal contributes to climate change, so on and so forth. So be careful with that. Make sure you include a working link for your source. I need to be able to click it and read it. Speaking of which, it should not be behind a paywall. If I can't access it, then your classmates can't access it. It's not valid. Same thing with like online books. If you're going to use an online book, you need to be specific. But here's the link, but you can find what I said on page 25, paragraph 2 or whatever. You have to use in-text citations. So instead of just like listing a source at the end of your paper, you have to say how you used it, right? So while you're writing, you'll say something like, according to my first source, blah, 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 blah. Or according to my second source, this, that, and the other thing. Make it obvious. And I'll go ahead and tell you one of the reasons, just to be honest with you, is because AI is very bad about using sources. So you need to, yes, make it obvious how. So basically, any fact in your paper and your post should have. So you should precede it with something like according to this source, and then state your fact. If you do directly quote your source, like word for word, and that's okay to do that, you make sure you use quotation marks. Otherwise, that's considered plagiarism. Now, before I move forward, I just want to reiterate, this is very, very important because people cheat. People cheat so much and use AI. So I'm telling you now, if you don't follow these guidelines for sources, you will get a 0 on that post, which brings me to another point. If you receive a 0 on any of your discussion posts, that's why. There's no other reason that you would get a 0 on any of your posts. So you don't need to ask me, hey, why did I get a 0? If you get a 0, that's why. Now, if you lost points, but not all the points, then you might want to ask me, you could ask me why you lost points. But yes, I'm very big on this. Make sure you use sources. Previously, I used to say, I would tell students, I would guide them, like I would reply to their post. I'm like, hey, can you reply to this and tell me how you used your source, right? And I would let them correct it. I just don't have time for that anymore. It's just taking too much time. So again, if you mess it up, you'll get a 0. But here's the good news. Don't freak out. The good news is you can post as many times as you want, right? So you're required to do 1 initial post and then 2 replies. But if you lost points, you can do more than 2 replies. Just keep posting until you get the full 25 points. Does that make sense? Or AKA, do you have any questions about sources? All right. Again, very, very important. All right. Now let's actually look at this discussion. Here we go. Module 1 discussion. All right. So this one is all about ethics, right? If you read the first chapter, it talks about the different types of ethical points of view. There's virtue ethics, consequence-based ethics, utilitarianism, or duty-based ethics. You can read about them in the textbook, or if you don't have the textbook yet, you can look it up. So basically, the goal here is for you to demonstrate you understand the ethical points of view. So I could have chosen any question. I just happened to choose the question, should we continue to use coal to produce electricity? I chose that because we were in West Virginia, so a lot of people have an opinion on that. But it's not really about coal. That's just the question I chose to ask you. I could have asked you, should we continue to hunt deer? Right? It doesn't matter. The point is, I'm asking you a question. You're going to answer it, but the key here is for you to demonstrate that you understand these ethical points of view. So for your initial post, you're going to choose one of these. You say, all right, I'm basing my opinion off of consequence-based ethics. Then you're going to define it, and then you're going to go on to answer the question using that particular ethical point of view. So for example, virtue ethics is all about your intentions, right? Consequence-based ethics is all about obviously the consequences, the outcome of the decision. Utilitarianism is a lot like consequence-based ethics, but it's more like, all right, now you're looking at the number of people. If the majority of the people have been helped and not harmed, then it's good. And then duty-based ethics is simply, is it legal or not, right? What's on the books. So read all about that. That is the key. Again, focus on that. You're trying to demonstrate that you understand those ethical points of view. Any questions about that? Nope. All right. So for your reply, same thing. You're trying to demonstrate that you understand these ethical points of view. Again, you can just read this yourself, but you're going to reply to somebody else's initial post and give them your opinion. But this time, you're going to choose a different ethical point of view from a different list. So this time, it's anthropocentric ethics, biocentric ethics, or ecocentric ethics. So the first one, anthropocentric, that just means humans are the most important. Like it doesn't matter, right? So when deciding if something is right or wrong, and if you're using this ethical point of view, that just means that humans are the most important. Biocentric ethics means every single living organism is most important. Ecocentric ethics means the ecosystem itself is most important. And let me really quickly differentiate between these two. Biocentric, or I'll give you an example. Hunting deer, I'll use that as an example since I brought it up earlier. One could argue that hunting deer is good. It's the right thing to do because it's good for the ecosystem, because they don't have as many natural predators as they used to. So it's good for the ecosystem to kill the excess deer, right? So you could argue that based on ecocentric ethics, that's the correct thing to do. But then based on biocentric ethics, you could argue otherwise and say, well, that is a living organism and it has intrinsic value and there's no reason you should kill it, right? So that's kind of how those two work. So any questions about these different ethical points of view? All right. And really quickly, like I said about the rubric and the syllabus, I was forced to put in there so you can ignore it. Every discussion has this right here. This is like a checklist rubric for your original post and your response. So read it. It's going to be different for each module, but it'll tell you what you're going to lose points for. So for this week, well, every week, if you make any errors, you're going to lose points. If you're arguing and like just being, rude and, well, basically, as you can read there, using emotion rather than logic, you're going to lose points for that. And you can click on that link if you want some examples. If you didn't answer the question, should we use coal or not? You're going to lose a lot of points. If you didn't say what ethical point of view you used, you're going to lose a lot of points. If you chose one from the wrong list, remember there's 2 different lists based on whether you're doing an initial post or reply, you're going to lose a point. If you didn't define your ethical point of view before you went on to use it, you're going to lose points. And also, if what you wrote doesn't match your definition or your ethical point of view, then you'll lose points. And I'll give you one example for that. Again, kudos to the student who already posted, but I'm using them as an example. They based their discussion off of virtue ethics, which is all about the intention, but then they went on to list all the negative consequences of using coal, of burning coal. So had they not been the first student to post, they would have lost points. Because, virtue ethics is about their intention, but they didn't write about intentions. They wrote about consequences. So you'll lose points for that. And that's basically it. And then also, you'll see this for every module as well, extra credit. If you want extra credit, you could just put a post on there, like add discussion topic. Oh, come on, why is this so slow? Anyway, if it were to work, when you hit add discussion topic, you could just title it, oh, there we go. Like this, extra credit. And basically all I want is your feedback, right? So you can just leave some feedback and say, hey, tell me what you liked about this discussion. Tell me what you didn't like. Tell me how it could be improved. Maybe come up with a completely different discussion I could use that's relevant to module 1. And you'll get up to 5 points of extra credit, depending on how valuable it is. So if you just write, this module sucks, or this discussion sucks, you're probably not going to get any points. But if you explain why it sucks, you'll probably get some points. And that's it. And again, I'll remind, for the module, or for the discussion. And once again, I'll remind you, 2 points is the minimum replies, right? So if you didn't get full credit, like let's say we're in module 2 now, and module 1's behind us, and you didn't get the full 25 points, just go back and do some more replies. It's okay. Again, officially, if it's late, the official policy is, it won't be graded. Unofficially, I'm telling you, I will try my best to get around to grading it. So yeah, the ball is in your court. There's no reason why you shouldn't get full credit. Make sure you use sources. And again, if you've written it and before you've submitted it, feel free to just meet me online and say, hey, can you look this over really quick before I submit it? I'll be happy to do that. So anyway, any questions about the discussions? All right, nice and easy. Lab 1. Yeah, let's look at this very quickly. So what you're going to need to do is you click this, it brings up a Google document. This is the master copy, so you don't have access to it, to editing it. So what you need to do is go here, and also, by the way, everything I'm about to tell you is right here in this link if you forget what I said. But anyway, you go to File, make a copy. I'm not going to do it because I don't need to make a copy. Well, sure, I'll just show you. Make a copy, name it whatever you want. It doesn't matter. The reason I do this is because once you've made yourself a copy, it is in Google, right? So if you go to your Google, these little 3 dots here, you can go to your Google Drive and it will be there, right? So that means if you started the lab on your computer and then your house burnt down, well, you can go to the library, log into your Google, and the document will be there. So that's why I do that. But anyway, yeah, make yourself a copy. There's some videos you can watch for extra credit. They have a lot to do with hypothesis testing and graphing and statistics and stuff like that, relevant stuff. I'm not going to waste your time talking about it, but I recommend watching those. There's a set of questions that go along with them to prove that you watch them. And again, you can get extra credit for that. And I also am not going to spend a lot of time going over this right now because, again, time is valuable. I don't want to waste your time. But I will remind you, just as any lab, if you want to, you can meet me online and I will actually go through it in detail. But right now, I'm just giving you a brief overview. So first thing you want to do is open this and read the introduction about hypothesis testing. Then there's this question, that you can answer for extra credit based on the information in that introduction. And here's the important part, I guess. Let's talk about the meat and potatoes. So what you're doing in this lab, and you can see the instructions here. You're going to open this, and you're going to read this, whatever. I'm not going to waste your time reading it, but you're going to go to this. You're going to go to this website, and you're going to see the temperature, right? You're going to read the temperature. You're going to write it down in the table, which I'm about to show you. And then let me show you. You're going to count how many times the fish breathes in 30 seconds. And then once you're done with that one, then you move on to the next one. Oh, come on. And you're going to record the temperature. And you're going to count how many times it breathes in 30 seconds. Then you're going to go on to the next one. Record the temperature. Count how many times it breathes in 30 seconds. Go on to the next one. Read the temperature. Count how many times it breathes in 30 seconds. And then, oh, no, sorry, one more time. Read the temperature. Count how many times it breathes in 30 seconds. Put it in the table. And then you come to this, which is the end. Now, I'll tell you now, you're going to need a screenshot of this to prove that you went through the entire lab and didn't just copy down some data from somebody else. So make sure you take a screenshot of this, or literally, if you're on the computer, you could just literally use your phone and take a picture of the screen, right? It doesn't have to be like, an actual screenshot. As long as I can see your computer and I can see the date and the time at the bottom right to make sure it's yours, then we're good. So any questions about the screenshot? All right. So again, that's where you're going to get your data from. You're going to be putting it here in this table. Again, like I said, right? Take the thermometer reading, put it in here, count how many times it breathes. That's how it's going to work. I will warn you this, it's not in order. So it doesn't start like when you go to that website, it doesn't start at this temperature and then this temperature and then this temperature, right? I don't remember where it starts. I think it starts here, then goes here, then goes here, then goes back up to here. I don't know. The point is, be careful. It's not in order. Make sure you're doing it correctly. And again, you're going to count how many times it breathes. That's the data you're going to get here. And then if you remember that picture I showed you of the end of the experiment where they had those two kids looking at the fish or whatever, there was also a table, and that table gives you data. That's the data you're going to, that's the data you're going to put here. And then this data has already been given to you. So then here, you're just going to do an average. And really quickly, and William, I'm sorry if this seems like I'm wasting your time, but people have asked me, how do I take an average? So in this case, right, you'll add this number. Right? I'll just use this as an example, right? 100 plus 101 plus 97 plus 90 plus 102. You add all that up and you divide it by 5, right? Because you have 5 fish. And that's how you get an average. Any questions about that? All right. You're going to need to make a bar graph or a column chart, however you want to call it. I'm not going to waste your time going through this, but you can click on here. This gives you instructions on how to do graphing. If you don't know how, I've also embedded a video where I explain how to do this. Or again, like I said, if you want to meet me online, I can walk you through this. Yeah, so that's it. You're going to make a bar graph. And I'll go ahead and tell you this. For this course, no matter which lab you're doing, if you're doing a bar graph, the bars need to go up and down, not left to right. And I'll just leave it at that. That's the easy way of saying it. Once you read all the instructions, you'll understand why and understand the proper terminology for all that. But yeah, your bars should go up and down, not left and right. Another big mistake I usually see is the title. The title of your graph should describe the data, shouldn't describe the lab, right? So if your title is Lab 1 Graph, you're going to lose points for that. It should describe the data that you have in your graph. And then I guess the last thing I'll say about graphing is this. Your graph should have enough information that you could show it to somebody and they understand exactly what it is without them reading the lab or without you even having to explain anything verbally, right? There should be enough information in your title and your x-axis label and your y-axis label, or even a legend if you need it. There should be enough information where the reader knows exactly what's on there. Yeah, so any questions about graphs? Nope. All right. Oh man, I've been forgetting to do attendance words. So William, you don't have to worry about that. But if you're watching the video, no, you didn't miss anything. This is the second attendance word, and it will be graph. So graph is the second word for attendance. Anyway, really quickly, like I mentioned earlier, you need to take a screenshot to prove that you got to the end of the that website. You're going to insert it here. I'll talk about this. This is going to be a common theme in this semester. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about it now. That way I don't have to talk about it every week when we meet. generally the way it's going to happen is the beginning of a lab, you're going to form some hypotheses, right? So like, and then you're going to test, you're going to gather data to see if your hypothesis is correct. And then afterwards, I'm going to ask you to repeat yourself. I'm going to say, all right, what was your hypothesis and was it correct? And I know it seems redundant, but this is for a reason, because this is probably more important than anything. Well, one of the more important things you're going to learn in this course is the ability to look at data to determine if your hypothesis is correct or not. And you might be thinking, oh, I'm not a biology major. I'm not going to be doing experiments in real life. That might be true. But if you're a critically thinking citizen of the world, in a sense, you will be doing experiments. You're going to be making assumptions about things, which isn't a hypothesis. And hopefully, instead of just assuming that you're correct, you're going to go look for data to see if you're correct. And this is a very important skill, is to be able to look at data and see if your assumptions are correct. So yeah, I will be asking you regularly to repeat your hypothesis and use the data to explain if it was correct or not. Some other things. All right. This next question, this is another question you get a lot. Basically, I'm saying, pretend the experiment you just did was a real experiment and it wasn't virtual and online. That in mind, what could you do to make the experiment better? And I'll just give you a hint, and you can read about it. There's a link in this lab. But at the very least, for every time you get this question, think about statistics, sample size. I'll just leave it at that. There's your hint. I mean, there's a lot of things that for each of these experiments that you could improve on them. But at the very least, there's always that. There's always sample size. So anyway, yeah, there's that. Why do you take an average? The most common mistake I see here is they don't include the source. So look it up. Tell me why you take an average. Make sure you include a link to your source. Yeah, people usually get that correct. Yeah, that's it. At the end, and again, this will be a common thing, at the end of every lab, you'll see there's like extra credit questions. Also, in this case, there's a whole extra lab you could do. But also, very often, you'll see this a lot in my courses, I want feedback. So you can get extra credit if you tell me, hey, here's what I liked about this lab. Here's what I didn't like about this lab. Here's how it could be improved. Here's a completely different lab you could do that's relevant to Module 1, whatever it is. So yeah, take advantage of that. And please, I love your feedback. I'm here for you. Anyway, that was pretty quick. Any questions about Lab 1? Nice and easy. All right. Module 1 quiz. That's pretty straightforward. Nothing much I can say about that. Yeah, so that's it. I don't think I have anything else. I just guess I want to reiterate 2 important things. 1, make sure you properly use sources in your discussions. And 2, let me help you. Like I said, meet me online to help you do an assignment, or meet me online and let me look it over before you submit it, or meet me online after I've graded it to give you feedback and a 5% boost to your grade. And yeah, and I guess the last thing to remind you is you don't have to do any of this alone, well, other than the quizzes and the exams. I'm here to help you. Let me help you. Make sure you make corrections, right? Just because you're done with an assignment doesn't mean you're done with the assignment. You're allowed to make corrections. Oh yeah, sorry, one more thing. I'm so sorry, William. The last thing I want to talk about is extra credit. And this is embedded somewhere. I'll share it with you again, but there's a whole list of things you can do for extra credit. I just kind of want to explain how it works mathematically. So like, let's say you get 100 points of extra credit. I'm not just going to add 100 points to your grade. What I'm going to do is add it to both ends. And you can read about it here. So for example, I'll just show you. If you ended the class with 950 points, and then but you also had 100 points of extra credit, that would be your grade. Your percentage, if you were to grade it, divided by 1,000 would be that, but that's not how I'm going to do it. So again, using the same example, if you had 950 points and you had 100 points of extra credit, that's, 1,050. I'm also going to add the 100 points to the total possible points. So it'll be divided by 1,100 in that example, which, it gives you a little bit of a boost, but not much. I guess the point here is there's a lot of extra credit. You can get a ton of points, but it's not meant to be a game changer. It's just to just give you a little bit of a boost. And also, if you read somewhere on there, there's even a disclaimer that says, no matter how many points you get, I will not boost your grade more than 2 letter grades from extra credit. Because again, Not meant to be a game changer, just a little bit of a boost. So yeah, but anyway, read that document. There's some links in here. There's a ton of videos you can watch. I mean, look at here. I mean, all kinds of videos that are relevant to the course, so to help you learn. Yeah, that's it. It's a long, growing list of videos you can watch and little sets of questions that you can answer while you're watching them to get extra credit. I highly recommend doing that. It'll teach you a lot, or as you can see here, some of it's more to get you interested as opposed to actually teaching you content. And yes, now I think I'm done. My last word for attendance will be video. And I'll remind you, where are we at here? Okay. I'll remind you, the last thing you also need to do, not you, William, but anyone else, to prove that you watched this video is you need to ask me one question about the material, at least one question about the material that I presented. Of course, you can ask me many more than that. And William, like I said earlier, you need to send me an email just as a reminder. And so I have a paper trail that, hey, I was online for the meeting. I'm claiming my extra credit. And of course, even though you don't have to, if you have a question, you can write it in the email. Actually, now would be better while we're still recording. Do you have any questions for me? And now that we've covered everything, I think.
None that I can
questions?
think of, other than I should be able to get the textbook at the bookstore. That's it.
Okay, yeah. And I recommend, and don't tell them I told you this, but I highly recommend getting it online because you probably get it a lot cheaper if you get it online, but it's up to you.
All right. How would I find that?
Honestly, I don't even, I would just like Google it, Google the name of it,